Good evening. Tonight, another 2,000 plus senior people are leaving NASA, while at the same time, they get a new interim administrator. The choice is interesting. Meantime, Space Rider just can't get enough airdrops. Global Star picks SpaceX to launch their final replacement sats. Yet another company gets $100 million in expansion capital. K2 Space sets a record. Axion tests a new spacesuit. A company called Orbex, I've never heard of them, is a UK contender in an ESA launcher competition. And a small country has big plans for space tech. That and our guest, Mary Glaz, CEO of Mission Space. Coming up from the news desk at the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And of course, as you know, this program is sponsored by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. Now, what is that? We strengthen and champion emerging space startups, space scalable SMBs, and space adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy across the funding spectrum. Our programs fortify business plans and investor readiness for founding teams at varying levels of development. A lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by our listeners and fans like you. So if you go to the QR code at the upper left of the screen, it's going to take you to our donation portal and keep helping us out. A little in the tip jar each month makes a big difference. And we're planning a space investment summit in Sydney, and we're trying to raise a pot of money for that. So you guys can help out. That would be absolutely grand. Thanks so much in advance. Joining me now is one of my oldest space friends, Michael Lane from Liftport. Michael, come on in. Or fails to do so.
Or not.
There he is. How you doing, man?
Hey, good. How's things?
It's okay. It's okay. Hot. It's brutally hot today. Hot enough that my upstairs AC can't quite keep up. You have days like that sometimes, and it's like there's an AB. I have a big house. There's an AB system, though. This is the only upstairs area, and for some reason, that B system just doesn't want to quite try to keep up if it's getting just a little too blistering in the afternoon. And I have to turn the fan on. I do all this other stuff. It'll settle down eventually, but man, it makes for a rough early evening. Other than that, I'm great.
Today in Seattle, it's overcast. It was raining. Yeah, I mean it's a Seattle in July, right?
Yeah,
that's what we got.
Yeah.
So, by the way, thanks for pointing out the Space Investment Summit at the beginning of the show. Big plans for Australia. So,
Yep.
Anything you want to announce about that, or too soon?
Not really, because we've been. Well, that's the thing. We've been raising some money for it, and we've got some commitment for that. We're just trying to bring the rest of it home. So I'm reaching out to anybody who might listen. That we'd love to get your help on that, and if you can, that would be great.
Reminding people that the Center for Space Commerce and Finance is in different incarnations, 10, 12, or 14 years old, depending on how you look at it. And it's committed $400,000 in prizes. So we definitely work hard to give back to this community. We really think that the garage band level of entrepreneurs in this ecosystem are super important, and it's fun. It's
over all those years, we've actually introduced over 90 companies to the world, and we've helped fund a little over 30 of them. So I think we have a pretty good batting average.
We also have a really good what do they call it? We have a good sniffer. We have a good BS detector.
Yeah. That's
That
part of our secret sauce.
it is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Right on. All right. You want to jump into it?
Yep. Bad NASA news and maybe worse NASA news, depending on how you look at it. First
Right.
off, over 2,000 senior people are calling it quits at the space agency over the recent policies, and some were asked, some were asked, and others were not. They said, you know what,
Others
I'm
were
out of
not.
here.
Yeah.
And it's this is another sad day. And 875 of them are GS15 and up. Not everybody
Seriously,
understands
tippy
those pay
top.
grade scales, but that's not chump change. GS15 is not chump change at all. So
no. I know some of them. LinkedIn, my LinkedIn feed is like a bloodbath, and some people are happy. They're tired. I mean, they're tired of how things are playing out right now.
Yeah.
And the industry is out there like with open arms trying to scoop up some folks. So some of them are happy. Most of them seem pretty disappointed.
Yeah.
It's a hard day.
I'm glad to see the industry is reaching out to them, because in the past, like when SpaceX was first starting to have a few successes, and he's working on it. His team is very flexible and very agile and very young. And he said once publicly, a bunch of old NASA guys, quit tomorrow, I probably wouldn't hire them, because they brought that old culture in with them, and that's just not working with what we're trying to build. I don't know how he feels about that now. Presumably, considering when I see the crew and his launch support crew during the big launches, even the Starship launches, it's a very young crowd still. So I don't imagine he's changed his tune about that at all.
Yeah, but Casey Dreyer at the Planetary Society, he is 100% right. That core technical staff, you cannot buy that level of expertise in a reasonably young person. I'm gonna put that question to our guest here this evening, because I was asked just a few weeks ago, if we went to the moon, why can't we get to the moon? Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a legit question.
Well, that's been a legit question for 50 years now. If we can send a man to the moon, why can't we do it again?
Right. So, and you can talk to people about, slide rule technology versus AI, but this core staff, it's going to hurt. I really think it's going to hurt. And it's going to be good for industry. I do think that there's enough, the depth and width of this new industry is wide enough and deep enough that it can absorb that talent. I really hope that's true.
But absorb it for what? Because again, half the funding, half the business that goes into a lot of these companies that are successful is coming from either NASA or the Department of Defense, and maybe a couple other places, but still a good chunk of their business comes from that sector. If NASA is no longer in the business of building anything or doing anything, and they keep losing people who are capable of doing something, what's left?
Yeah.
What are you gonna? What's the purpose now of the whole thing?
I hope that there's some technical folks that are going to wind up in some form of Golden Dome. I mean, there's too much money there for these folks to not get hired. But then what do you do with them? Like, I was really surprised that they had this level of detail in the article, but the folks at NASA headquarters, they're probably in the most trouble. They might transition to another organization in Washington, D.C., but I kind of think that the folks at Kennedy and Johnson are probably fine, because there's enough local industry to reclaim. So all this is speculation.
Yep.
All this is speculation. So
absolutely. I got a couple of comments.
Mhm.
Joe Bistritto is with us again tonight. Hi, Joe.
Hey,
And he
Joe.
says, yeah, this happens after layoffs in Silicon Valley every time. But he also believes a lot of people leaving NASA is going to result in a lot of new space companies being created.
Uh,
So
yeah.
that's really good. Um, Wes is back with us. Wes Ferris. He says he can't vote well for the Artemis program. I would only disagree because in the most recent big beautiful bill that passed, there was an extra 10 billion to keep Artemis flying much longer than the originally planned.
With
So
the wrong architecture, just
with the
going to throw
wrong
that in there.
architecture, yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's gonna be bumpy. It is.
yeah,
The Silicon Valley analogy I think is good, but I don't think it's 100% accurate just because there's so much of that same interconnected industry in the valley, whereas
well, the difference
our
is
industry
also
is
is
still pretty small by
the
comparison.
difference is also, like my old friend Shubber Lee likes to point out, is between atoms and electrons. So
Yeah,
you're building hardware, you're flying stuff, you're doing things, you're using atoms at a gross scale, and whereas in Silicon Valley you're using electrons and digits and code,
yeah,
and so things move a lot more quickly and can be developed a lot more quickly.
yeah.
I am working on a new app right now, as a matter of fact. Yes, this old man
Mhm.
is teaching himself to code, and he's using an AI to help him. And
Yep.
so, so you may see this in a couple of months. Um,
Well, and I love
super
Doug's
exciting.
comment, right? Dr.
Yep.
Plata, he always has a good
Yes.
counterpunch.
Yep.
That maybe these old dogs aren't going to learn new tricks, and the most effective space company in the world has a very young workforce, which was what we did with the original NASA. So, yeah, yeah,
Yep.
it's gonna be bumpy. No matter what happens, it's gonna be bumpy.
Yeah.
Speaking
Dr.
of
Doug. Yeah.
bumpy,
We should call him Doctor Who now from now on because he always has the apt phrase.
he
Like
does.
every time.
Yeah,
Forgive me for throwing a pop culture reference out there, but I
yeah,
thought it was appropriate.
yeah.
Yes. Now, the next thing is so weird. Okay, on NASA news again, the acting Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, has been named interim acting NASA administrator. That's not really the story. The story is we don't know squat about this guy, and we can't really find anything of interest to tell you.
Right.
That's
It's
the
really
news.
true. The news is it happened, and love the guys. It's you all have all heard me say I really admire Dr. Faust, but it's paywall and I'm not paying for it, so I don't know what else to say. So what I wound up doing, because I just wanted to know, was, oh, here's Wikipedia. So not my favorite source, but still solid. And it's already been updated. So, it is referencing that he's been added as the acting administrator. So somebody updated this today. What I was not expecting to see was that he's been, his first claim to fame was being on MTV's The Real World. And I just started laughing because uh, I during the show, or before the show, before we started, I was like, well, same qualifications that the rest of the administration is using. He's pretty, so that's enough. That's the metric. He's been on television, so that's the
Well, I
metric.
guess that's been going on for a long time. Ronald
It
Reagan was
has.
a famous B movie actor who somehow
Yep.
became, through a certain speech that he made in 1964 in support of
Yep.
Barry Goldwater, ended up propelling him into being governor of California.
Yep.
And governors have a long propensity to become presidents later. And so he
They
picked his
do.
moment.
They do.
There we are. And he's still one of the most
So
loved.
I yeah, for sure. I might be pretty hardcore blue and purple, but I definitely uh I definitely liked the Reagan days. Um the thing that I thought was the funniest was Rolling Stone. The man afraid to ride the subway is named the head of NASA, which this article is worth reading. It is pretty entertaining. So I'm going to recommend that. But it goes into his real world days, and he didn't want to ride the Boston subway. So pretty entertaining. I wish we had some more news to go with this news, but it made me think about I really did not like Senator Nelson being the administrator of NASA. I think
I was
he
not a fan. Well, because I
pushed,
knew because he was the one who is the Senate launch system. He was
right?
the
He
Senate launch
was
system.
Mr. Senate Launch System.
And
Yeah.
then when they
So,
put him in, it's like, okay, we're screwed.
right.
We're
More of the
screwed.
same.
And we were screwed for 4 years. We
Right.
were completely
And then,
screwed.
ironically, I was super
And we're
against
still screwed.
Bridenstine, and he turned out to be great. So I'm going to just cross my fingers. I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that and hope that Duffy is able to rise to the occasion. And that's all I'm going to say about it right now. I'm just going to wait. I'm just
Well,
going to
that's
wait.
the thing is, but the only thing noteworthy is that this is the first time in NASA's 67-year history that the actual transportation secretary is running the place.
Right.
Even for 5 minutes. That's never happened in all its history. So, okay, that's a first, but now what?
Fingers crossed. Now what? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What else are we talking about?
Well,
we're spending a lot of time on this. Let's move on.
The rest of it's is really like quick and dirty kind of stuff. There's this outfit that's building a reentry module called Space Rider. I think they're out the EU, and they did a bunch of airdrop tests a year ago, and I guess now they're doing a bunch more. They just can't get enough of their airdrop tests. So I just thought that was kind of amusing.
On this,
that out there.
On the surface, it's not that big a deal, but this goes right back to the producer, Sean, who's really driven home that re-entry is the next big, cool, sexy thing about space. And if we don't get that part right, we don't get to do all the things that we want to do. So he's really driven that home to me. And so now I'm just aware of it in my own news feed. So that's it. I'm like, oh, he keeps being right. That guy, Sean Key, is pretty smart. So he keeps being
he
right.
is. He's pretty. Yep, absolutely. That's why we keep him in.
Let's see.
Globalstar selected SpaceX to launch their final replacement satellites. For some reason, it just seems poignant to me, and I'm not sure why. Because Globalstar has been around a long time.
Yeah, one of the earliest.
And they're
constellations.
And so they're like moving it by picking SpaceX. They're like taking this step into the future or something.
Right.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah. I don't really have that much to say about this because it does seem like it's old tech trying to catch up. It is mildly ironic that they're working with SpaceX because that would have never happened before.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So curious to see where that goes. And then this one is actually kind of interesting to me.
That's the money shot of the day.
Right. Yeah. I think regular viewers will know that, like, about 3 weeks ago, we had $1 billion week in space. And then the week after that, it was 500 million. So it's going to be hard to reach $1 billion week in space, but I'd give props to 100 million. I'd give props to 100 million.
We've probably reported almost 3 billion in the last 2 months.
Yeah, we for sure have.
So it's like there's money coming in.
I'm gonna just use that as a plug for Monday. We're gonna dig into the Space Capital report that comes out quarterly, and kind of take a deep dive into that because that money is flowing into this industry, and it's amazing to see.
And the people that do that used to be called the Space Angels Network.
Yeah.
And so they've been around for a long time. And so that's why this interests me. I'm surprised they're, just kind of giving it away every 3 months. But because a lot of other outfits have been around longer, charge lots of money for these things.
Yeah.
And this is like, oh, but this is so cool.
Oh, Joe. Well, congratulations, buddy. I'm just going to post this. Joe, I'm just going to out you because that's super cool news. Good for you. We referred to that as the Netscape moment of space a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, that's pretty neat. Good job.
Yeah. That makes up for Rotary Rocket.
Yes, it does. At least it helps. It helps kind of like alleviate some of the sting.
Yep. Goes around, comes around. Good for you, Joe.
I'm a big fan of this next one. Oops, apparently I'm not showing it. K2, a couple of years ago, Michael Mealing and I kind of invented the phrase, the Starship Singularity. And it was out of this concept that no one is building something big enough to appreciate and use Starship's capabilities. And Mealing is like, look, this thing is going to happen. This giant machine is going to fly, and no one is building anything that can use it. And so here comes along these folks at K2, and they're like, we got you. And it's one of the first very audacious. I mean, there's a whole industry of audacious people in this industry. I love them. That's one of the reasons why I'm here. But they were the ones that are like, if Starship doesn't fly, we don't have a business. If Starship does fly, we are going to own space because no one is building on the scale that we are.
Yeah.
That's an all-in strategy that I really have to admire. So hats off to those folks.
Yep. And right. Yes, you're right, Joe. It's not Rotary. My bad. As my Alzheimer's kicking in today. What you want to go with? Have you ever heard of Orbex?
You want to talk about Orbex just for a moment? They're one of the many,
but they're a UK contender in the ESA launcher competition. People don't realize not everything ended with Brexit. UK is still a partner in the European Space Agency programs, even though they're not in the EU anymore. And so it makes things kind of interesting when all of a sudden you see something, a UK contender in an ESA launcher competition, and people scratch their heads and go, huh? Well, that's why.
I think it's further evidence to what I keep saying about as the rocketry industry fragments. People were saying there's 200 rockets companies are too many. That's too many. And I said years ago, it's going to devolve into national rocketry programs. So whoever is the biggest of a country, that's what's going to happen. And this is just proof. I confess I don't really pay attention to the rocket launch companies out of Europe. I know that UK has built a lot of ports, a surprising amount of ports given their size and geography and geology. But it's kind of cool. I like it. All right. Anything else to say on this? We're going to move on. Alrighty.
And the other things they're kind of small. We can take, we want to take 1 minute. It's like I just saw an interesting thing. Axiom Space, they now have their own next gen spacesuit, and they're testing it for the first time in the NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab. And so, and it looks surprisingly familiar. And it looks like a lot of the older looking suits that they used in the shuttle, and in the ISS today. So I don't know.
Yep. I gotta. So I thought I had that article because I know I sent it to you, but apparently I do not have it to post. So we will not be posting that one. I'm gonna just kind of throw in something. I had this moment with this guy at ISTC. I would shout out his card if I had it like instantly available. I thought I had it here. Nope, that's not it. I have it here. I'll try to post it next week, I guess. He's a guy that runs the commercialization of the neutral buoyancy lab.
Okay.
And so he's out there. He was at ISDC specifically to find companies that want to use this gigantic pool, segment off a piece of it, and use it for testing. So he's trying to commercialize the neutral buoyancy lab. I had never heard of such a thing. I was pretty shocked. So good for NASA for doing that. I thought that was kind of neat. So
absolutely,
yeah. I remain skeptical of Axiom only because they bifurcated their plan. You know, they were the top contender of space stations. They ceded that lead, and they took a big check that kind of squandered some resources on the spacesuit. So I'm a little worried about Axiom. I feel like their focus is blurred.
Yeah, they're still looking for money. They could
very
have made more in some of those flights, especially the ones with Saudi Arabia. But we're not going to go into that again. I thought Joe asked a question. Which track did you think was the best at ISDC? Are you kidding? Of course it was my track, the business track. Are you kidding me? What are you going to ask that question on this show?
Joe, you missed it. We actually did a live broadcast from the show from ISDC for this show. It was a 2-hour special. Sean, maybe you can post a link to that. It was a really good show. So definitely
very fun.
Patting ourselves on the back for that. So simple answer, buddy. Simple answer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's bring in our guests. Yeah?
Let's move on. Definitely. And usually.
Oh, what did you want to say about Lithuania?
All I wanted to say was I like the ideas that countries are like this big are getting in the game, and they're people that you never expected to get in the game. Get in the game. There's a place in space tech for everybody, and everybody can build a place for space tech. I guess is my point of that. And so I'm really thrilled to see, there's 187 countries in the world. I like to see every one of them have a space thing in their country. Why not? And so good for Lithuania. I'm cheering them.
A couple of years ago, I met an ISUer from the Czech Republic. PhD. He was trying to kind of steer and shepherd the Czech Republic towards space, and they were taking a page from Luxembourg, and they were really interested in asteroid mining and asteroid development. And I'm like, it's the wrong path. You're gonna wind up in quicksand. It didn't work out for Luxembourg. It's not going to work out for you. They at least have the deep enough pockets to withstand the quicksand, but you're going to get crushed. I'm like, you guys kind of need to focus on the moon. There's so many things happening on the moon right now. It'll be a better use of their resources. And they did a moon U-turn, and they did something like this. They did a survey of what does their nation have in terms of technical capabilities, and they went after lasers also. So I thought that was really cool to see this from Lithuania. And we had a guest on our show from Croatia that has figured out the legal structures for developing corporations.
Yeah, we got that. But right now, we have a guest who's doing something interesting right here in Florida, in Miami. And I want to get her in here now because she's doing some really interesting stuff. Because we're, as always, our show is at that intersection of space and money. And we usually get people who either write the checks or get the checks or doing something really interesting in between. And we've got a really interesting guest right now, Mary Glaz, the new CEO of Mission Space in Miami. Please, Pajalsta, come on in.
You can't.
There you are.
There we go.
Okay, how are you?
I'm gonna tell the audience the moment that he uses Russian on her, she got this great big smile. It was actually really really fun. You just kind of lit up. It was good. It was
Thanks
cool.
for having me.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, tell us about, you've got an interesting story. Now, I want to hear it from you. How you got, from there to here for, because this is it looks like a really great gig for you. I want to know how you got there.
Well, as you mentioned that, as you think like how you can get into a career, and you think like, okay, I'm in a point A and I'm gonna to be in a point B like in 5 years or so, but it's not gonna happen. Like you're gonna go like that, and at
Absolutely.
some point, yeah, you're gonna end up doing something in space. I graduated from SMR's Aerospace State University, named by Korolev. It was many years ago. But at some point they want you to sign some papers, and those papers say that you're not allowed to go somewhere, basically, that you can't leave the country. So I said that, sorry guys, not gonna sign that. And my career, so once you're like you're not supposed to work as an engineer. And I decided to do something else. This is how I got into um, first San Francisco. I thought
Hmm.
that, like, where is the best place? What is the best place for tech, for an engineer? And I went to San Francisco. One company office was Trucker Puff, and they've been building app for truck drivers. Think of it, it's like Google Map, but for truck drivers, because they have like trucking miles, wave stations, etc., etc. And after that, I then joined another company, and then a venture capital fund. It was a deep tech venture capital fund,
Hmm.
and they've started to. I started investing in secondaries at that point, and one of the tracks was space tech.
Okay.
But nothing clicked at that point. I I then joined a deep tech company, and we've been building our AR for cars. And only after I decided to build my own company, and we failed, and then I joined Mission Space, and that by far that is like the best decision ever. Like I wake up
Awesome.
happy. I go to bed happy. Yes.
Okay, well, looking at your
Nice.
background, going, I know it goes all the way back. You were developing software for a trucking company, and you did all these other things all the way up, and then we were like, 10 months is in operations, and then you just 4 months ago you became CEO. Yeah, it looks like the rise was swift, but I see it completely different. I look at your background and go, no, it's taken you 10 years of very hard work to become an overnight
Right.
success.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how I put it.
this is true. So it's not just like that you become CEO like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to prove yourself.
Yeah, in this business, yeah, even though it looks like people come out of nowhere. No, if you take a deep dive into their background, nobody just came out of nowhere. They did come from somewhere, and it's usually they took a lot of hard hits along the way. So
Mhm.
good on
Yeah,
you.
yeah, we used to say that hard tech is hard,
Yep.
but space tech, it's something. It's really
So let's get
something.
into it. What does Mission Space do? What's your passion? What gets you up in the morning? What does this thing do for humanity? And how do you get
Y-
rich?
Yeah, so what is good about us is that we're a hardware company and we're a software company. And uh, for our viewers, you can see those guys. Those
Okay.
are this is silicon spectrometer. Tracks charged particles from mid to high energy, and this is Cherenkov detector. It tracks Cherenkov radiation. So those are our proprietary sensors. They used to be like space weather sensors. They were like a size of a micro.
Mary, can you put those back up? I
We
didn't
got
have
you
the
on full
screen
screen. We
quite
want to
large.
see them again
Okay.
in
Those
vivid
guys.
detail. There they are. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, very light, very
And
slow.
describe them again.
So silicon spectrometer.
Okay.
Okay.
Tracks charge particles from mid to high energy, and this is a Cherenkov detector. It tracks radiation, Cherenkov radiation that is a result of relativistic um, radiation particles.
Good.
You're gonna have to break that down for me because that I
Well,
don't have the background
well,
to know
let's
what that
break it down
means.
this way. Who are you selling these things to?
Well, now we're focused more on those companies that operate in LEO, Earth orbit. Um, think of space traffic management companies, satellite operators.
Okay. Mhm.
So those guys, the first payload was launched in March this year. So we have 4 months of flight heritage, and yeah, thanks. The second payload is scheduled for next year, Q2, and the second one is gonna have also a neutral density sensor, and this gonna help space traffic management companies to calculate the drag better. And this is a very big issue nowadays because now we have what, like 11, 12,000 spacecraft flying there, and in 10 years we're gonna have something like 300,000.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So wait, this kind of like slid slightly under the radar. So 4 months ago you became CEO, and 4 months ago also you launched your first
Right.
satellite. Is that coincidence or are those connected?
Well, first years, the company spent on building the instruments, and it's
Mhm.
really it's tough work. And I just like came in the right time, I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
great,
and
good,
thank you.
congrats. So I have lots of answers to this, but I'd like your answer. Why does space weather matter? What is it? Why is that? Why is there a market for it? What is the market for it?
We have a joke, like it's an insider joke that I always say that I'm a pilot, and like uh, like pilots know that weather, terrestrial weather,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
something that you have to bear in mind, and it's
Mhm.
well, it's it's the pilot to decide if you it's like a go no go. It's
Yeah.
pretty much gonna be the same for space players, market players. So let's take a step back. So we have a sun, and it emits something every second. So those are radiation, uh, and well, this is like the effect of radiation is like it's pretty well known. It's very bad when you're exposed to the radiation. It's good when you're not exposed to
Right.
radiation, right? And for instance, the first Artemis program, it wasn't crewed, but they were exposed to a dose of radiation that is 30 times higher when compared to a standard one. So think of if back in the days they had people at that time,
Mhm.
well, yeah, it's gonna be a disaster. Um,
Yeah.
so, but despite of sounding like something there, something like far away from me, even if you fly if you take a transatlantic flight, and if they decide to go close to the polar region and sun
Right.
emits charged particles, and those particles, they actually reach space, the plane. Because if you think about the Earth, so we have polar regions, and those polar regions, there's like a funnel there. So this is how charged particles get to us, basically, and this is how they interfere with the magnetic field, and this ionospheric disturbance affect GPS. And last May, U.S. farmers lost almost $500 million due to the bad propagation of the signal propagation. The mistake was 70 meters. And the autonomous tractors from John Deere, they use like super precise algorithm. So they need to know like where to put the seeds, basically. So they just cropped something somewhere, and this is how they lost a lot of assets, a lot of crops. Yeah, I can go on like forever.
No, that's good. That's good.
Fine, we got time. Go ahead.
So, yeah. So are you? I'm going to try to simplify it. By giving people 4 days advance notice, if I saw your website correctly, you're giving people 4 days advance notice. Hey, there's something happening. What can they do about it? Great, they have the 4 days advance notice. What then?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, what the current infrastructure lacks, it's real-time data. So we have a few missions, but those are not like super focused on the space weather. So they provide you like indices, but they like a little broad. So you have a algorithm, and that this algorithm, it fails in 6 to 12 hours. So it's like a probabilistic, and predictions are somehow like it might happen, might not happen. Like we don't know. Something is coming. Maybe it's not coming your way, but it's coming somewhere. So what we do now, we can tell you, but like now we do 500 kilometers, which is like not the best option. We're gonna improve, we promise. And so what are you going to do? For example, you have a constellation of satellites. Those assets, they can deorbit if there's a solar storm because of the increased drag. That what happened with Starlink 2 years ago. They lost 40. Yeah, exactly. They lost 40 satellites, which is like 140 million. So we can tell you that something is coming your way, and you can either maneuver or you can change the orbit. Or if we talk about the moon and you have rovers on the moon, you can just like switch to the safe mode, right? Or you can halt operation. And another good thing is that we also can tell you that it has passed. So you can restart the operation.
Right. That's huge. That's really the point of all this, right? So the insurance companies have got to be happy with you. The companies that are running the missions have to be happy with you. Who are your clients then?
So space traffic management companies, satellite operators, airlines, power grids operators, like you name it. Once, I think it was this year or last year, there was a guy, they have like autonomous golf cars. So they don't have golf cars, they just like give you the cars. And he was telling me a story that he has clients that like the client called him and yelled at him that the cars are not working, and he was like, that's not us, that's the solar flare. He was like, what's the solar flare?
The sky, like what are we supposed to do here?
What is solar flare? Don't bullshit me yet.
Right. Oh man, that's funny. I like that. Uh, so how old's the company? How big is the company? Where's the money coming from? How are you spending it? Uh, you know, like let's dig into mission space a little
Yeah,
bit.
so we're based between Miami and Luxembourg. We're just 12 people. Just like two of us in operations, and the rest are machine learning engineers, hardware engineers, space weather engineers again. And we have the first paying customer, which is yeah, thanks. Which is it's Starcatcher, also based here in Florida. So
Oh,
go
Starcatcher. That's
all
Andrew
right,
Rush's
all
team, right?
right, yeah, yeah. The guy's a legend.
Uh,
I in any book I read, like he's
wait.
there.
Just stick with the guy's a legend. Is that what you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
said? All right. So I'm just gonna point out that Andrew Rush wanted to work for me about 12 years ago. I was not able to hire him. There's about 5 or 6 folks in the space industry that have now gone on to build their own legendary programs that I wanted to hire but didn't, and
Yeah.
now I just watch them
I've
blowing up and
I've got
becoming
similar
amazing.
stories. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Andrew Rush, he really is as good as you think he is. Like he's
he's a rock
great.
star.
I really
Yeah,
think he's
yeah,
fun.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, our first paying
He
customer.
he is and Andrew Rush is our very first interview. If you go
Really?
back to maybe, gosh, it might be 2013. He is my very first interview for shows. Yeah, Andrew Rush, like I don't know, Sean, if you can find that, that's in the Wayback Machine. But yeah, Andrew's great. He's anyway. Sorry, I didn't want to derail. But all right, so your first client is with Andrew
Right,
with
right.
Starcatcher. Yeah,
Okay.
that's awesome. That's really
I have an
great.
off the wall question.
Uh,
You because you mentioned Luxembourg and Miami. I get that. I get Luxembourg for a lot of reasons. What made you choose Miami
Yeah, Getaway have a lot of ways.
yeah, that's a good
compared to the
question.
Space Coast? You go to Melbourne and there's like nothing but space
Yeah,
guys hanging out.
yeah. You have Space Coast, you have Melbourne, you have LA. Of course, you have Silicon Valley. So we don't build rockets, so that's why we don't need huge hangars like Blue Origin or
Sure.
other
Mhm.
even like satellite builders. Our instruments are relatively small, well, really small. Um, and well, I don't know. I used to live in California, and with all due respect, I love it here.
Hmm.
and, and yeah, we usually we reply something like because Miami has a lot of sunny days, so it's the best place to observe the sun.
I was gonna put a pitch in for Seattle because we're really good at data. We have this thing called the space data corridor between Microsoft and Azure and AWS and Amazon. A lot of space companies are here that are just strictly data companies. But then you killed it with, but I
Yeah,
like the
but
sun.
you don't have
So,
the sun,
all right.
Of course, this time of
unfortunately.
year is
That's,
not exactly the best time of year to be here. It's like
yeah, yeah.
it was pretty swampy at my house today. I don't know about yours, but
Yes.
man,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
hot. It was
it's
hot
humid.
today.
It's humid. Yeah.
So
So you said there's 12 people. So most of them are doing hardware in Europe. Is that correct? Okay, in
Yeah,
Luxembourg.
and
Okay. Okay.
machine learning department. The head of machine learning department, she's in New York. She's in transition from Google, so
Okay.
I can't name her, but we I think we're gonna move the team here by the end of the year. I hope.
okay, cool.
Cool.
All right.
And assuming it's going to grow more.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Yeah, more engineers. We definitely need a like a sales department, something like that, because it's really hard
yeah.
because like you need to do everything like from product to sales and especially what I find it's really hard to do. It's like the space industry is still tough. I mean, if you ever visited something like the space symposium, and of course
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you can imagine like those 6 feet people, military guys,
yeah.
and this is what I feel that we lack, that like the understanding of the procedures, or maybe like just that there's like a code of rules and we just don't know it. Sometimes we have really inspireful and open conversations, and companies are really interested in the product, s- and the funniest thing is that it comes from a company that you think that like they're never gonna reply to your message, and you just like reach
Mhm.
out on LinkedIn or X, and they're like, yeah, sure, let's
Yeah,
chat.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and company that went public even, and sometimes you're trying to talk with a startup, and they're like, no, not gonna happen. Not gonna tell you why either.
Yeah, no, this industry, we started before the show started talking about how Tom and I have been at this for a really long time. We know a lot of people in this industry, but because it's growing so fast, there's a million folks out there that we don't know anymore, like at all. And it's really surprising. But this industry has always been built on friendships and relationships. We talked about Voyager a few minutes ago. Voyager was a couple of guys that Tom and I know that hung out at the bar at an event that we were at and decided, hey, let's go build a company. And that became Voyager, right?
I
So,
love those
hats
stories.
off to those
Yeah.
folks. Well, but it's true. Like I can tell you when and where it happened, how those guys got together to go build what was the first thing? Their little ejector. I'm suddenly drawing a blank. Anyway, but this industry really thrives on handshakes. LinkedIn is good. LinkedIn will cut through a lot of filters, but it really thrives on handshakes in a way like nothing I've ever seen before. Um, so if you're gonna build a team, it's not just straight marketing, because who do you market to? I know some folks that have geotagged their ads to the parking lot at the Pentagon and the parking lot at NASA headquarters. Like, you can get geotags that are super hyper focused
Yeah.
location wise, but that's throwing money down a hole. So marketing is tough in this industry, and relationships really do, you have to curate them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing, it's a
Um,
bad thing. So
yeah. 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 All right. So let's think about the future here. So you're growing, you got 12, you're gonna have some more. Um, what does the next 5 years look like? What does the next 25 years look like? We got about 7 minutes to kind of dig into this.
well, in 5 years, I see us as I call it hypernova. That like
Hyper what?
Noah, Noah,
Hyper
yeah.
Noah. Okay.
So
All right. Cool.
yeah, companies rely on Noah's data, and
Mhm.
Hmm.
we're gonna be the real, yeah. So the big idea is to have a constellation of 24 satellites, two different orbital planes, so you have at least one satellite each hour on the polar regions, and here you have like the most precise picture of what's going on there. And we're also in talks with companies that have moon programs, so gonna do the moon space weather at some point.
Right on. We should definitely talk about that. That's right up my alley. All right. So well, I mean, let's dig into that for a second. When is the moon system going to be available?
2028.
20.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
Yeah,
a
that's a
pretty
good.
hard and fast
That's good.
answer. I like that.
Yeah, I like it. Just like I
So I
know
know what's
this.
happening.
This is
I've already planned it.
uh-huh.
So mote it be.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
Good. Good.
All right, so 2028, you'll have a functioning lunar system. How many sats will you have orbital for Earth? What's your constellation for Earth
24,
for Leo?
24 at least. At some point, we're gonna partner with someone who has like 3,000 satellites, and it's gonna be huge. And also, we're in talks with different ground stations.
You would just put your sensor
Absolutely,
on somebody else's. So you don't even have to worry about building your own constellation. You're just going to build the box and then sell the
exactly.
box.
Yeah, just like a
Yeah,
bigger
great.
bag mission.
That's the best
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
I think that's the best
So
way to do
you
it.
just the more sats you're on, the bigger your network, the better your network, the better your data, the more money, and it's a self-filling
Yes,
cycle.
sir.
Brilliant. Love it. Love it. Um, I know some folks listening to this show that are very interested in your lunar program, so there may be a shout out there. So just kind of anticipate that. Yeah, the network effect of one satellite turns into two, turns into four, turns into eight. It's an unstoppable plan. So that's really cool. All right, so that's 5 years. What does 25 years look like?
Well, that's a good,
Go
yeah, it's
beyond
a very
yourself.
good question. So I don't know. It feels like Leo is going through something like through stages, like just newborn country. So it's like there's resources, some new players, old players, and it's like some kind of tension. So in 25 years, I think it's going to be a cycle of that. It's like, okay, you used to have like a few big names. Now you have people coming from those big companies and establishing new businesses. At some point, it's going to merge again into big names. Well,
Mm-hmm.
and here I just see us in a good company with big guys, big names like rocket launchers, commercial space station, and space stations on the moon.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, that's a pretty common. Plan. What do you think about? Leo having 40,000 satellites, 70,000, 100,000 satellites? There's an argument. I don't think it's true, but there's an argument for 500,000 or 250,000 satellites up there. Where does that put you?
For us, it's just the more satellites, the more clients we have. For what sounds scary for others, for us is just our sweet spot. And what is
Uh,
good about that is that actually there's a lot of regulation in place. So you can't just throw things out there and wait for them to deorbit at some point somewhere. It's good that they have strict policy about that. And I think that at some point we're gonna face the same in regards to space weather. You can't just like again go there without knowing if it's gonna rain or not. Yeah.
Nope.
cool. Love it. Love it.
Okay. My God. Because your comment made something about there needs to be probably in 25 years. Hopefully by then there'll be some kind of regime in place that everybody knows about for deorbiting these satellites safely that are cluttering up the sky and aren't working anymore, because we don't have that right now, and we're just depending on whoever's putting these things up there to figure out how to bring them back again. And so there's going to be a lot of work that's going to need to be done to make that better, or we're screwed. We have this event that happens, and then we can't even launch anymore, and
Right.
now we're stuck again. So
Right.
we got to do this now. But on that note, Mary Glaz, CEO, Mission Space out of Miami, thank you so much for being with us here. It was just
Thank you
a
very
joy
much.
to have you, and hope we'll do it again someday, and you can catch us up on all the wonderful things Mission Space.
Would love to. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Okay. Good night. Thanks. Okay. Next Monday is going to be kind of a special day. We just got the new quarterly space report from a group that used to be called the Space Angels Network, and they're a great bunch of people, and they produce some fantastic material. And I thought what we would do, we're going to spend our show on Monday actually talking about this report and unpacking it and taking it apart and really getting into it in detail. And if there's something we see that we want to really rip into, we're going to do that too. And we'll have hopefully the help of a lot of you on that day. And of course, it will be Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So for Michael Lane, Sean Key, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. Keep watching the skies.